Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
We got brother Hamza here. Hamza, what brought you to Islam?
So I was in the military for
Yeah.
American Marines, and
Yeah.
I was working in Afghanistan, and due to some conflicts that happened, a brother in Islam that was in the AA Army, he told me some wise words that helped me deal with the anger that I was feeling. And
Wow. What made you join the Marines, right?
yes, so family tradition.
Yeah.
I was the sixth generation in my family.
Yeah.
So I wanted to keep that alive, and honestly, just due to everything that happened in 9/11, I still remember where I was to this day, and so I wanted to do my part.
Yeah. Do you know, like most Americans, they kind of get, not brainwashed, but they get, like the tradition carries on, like fight for your country and this and that.
They do. I think brainwashing is a good word. Sometimes due through media, social media, news, and government, they spin a narrative to make you believe a certain ideology, but it's not always what it seems to be. And
Yeah.
alhamdulillah, when I was over in the Middle East, my eyes were open to what I consider the truth to be. So,
Was there a specific moment that you could recall, or was there a series of events that brought you to?
honestly, just losing my friends. When we
Yeah.
were over there and came back to the States, I've had quite a few friends commit suicide
Wow.
or overdose on narcotics, and just those experiences are tough, and it's hard to deal with because you shared a lot of moments with them, good and bad. So due to those, it just it really helps you find peace, and it brings you closer to Allah. But
Do you have any guilt or regret you must do of just
no,
guilt or
no.
regret of just the things you've seen, like sufferings and stuff?
No,
Warfare
because
isn't
I
it?
believe, just like it says in the Quran, that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And so all we can control is our attitude. And for
Yeah.
many years, I was mad and I was angry, and I even resented me even joining the military. But then once the words of the Quran hit me, it really hit home, and it made me realize that none of this was in my control. And
Wow.
I just got to find peace in the journey, and that's all that matters. We're only here for one reason, and that's to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to give praise to Him. So,
Did you find it hard or weird in the beginning to adapt to a whole different lifestyle?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's challenges that come with it, whether it's language, understanding, tradition.
Yeah.
But the journey's been good, and I've met a lot of nice people along the way that have helped the process go smoothly.
Even today in the mosque, everyone's around you like you're
Yes.
royal.
I'm not used to that part of it. but
Yeah.
it is nice. I've met a lot of good brothers and sisters.
It's a nice, overwhelming feeling, right? Of just
It can be very
nice-
humbling.
Yeah.
Very humbling. I'm not used to attention in my life, so it's very humbling to meet brothers and sisters that come up to me and want to know me.
So would you say you're kind of an introvert?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I am. I get very goal oriented, and I just stay to myself.
Wow.
So a lot of time inside, or at the gyms, or just with family. So.
Yeah. Did you have a religion before this?
I did. I grew up Catholic, and then when I was around 15, 16, I kind of stopped practicing all religions and just
Yeah.
kind of found my own way. I drifted for a while, and then when I was in the military, I started studying all the religions.
Oh wow.
And so I've studied just about every single one of them.
Yeah. Do you see any similarities in terms of the main goal, or what was it about Islam that made you choose it or accept it, let's say?
Honestly, the fact that the Quran that we're reading today is the same one that the Prophet
Yeah.
Muhammad was reading. And through all my studies of all the different religions, you can see where the narratives have gotten twisted.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's right that places like the Vatican have chapters of the book that they say isn't deemed for human reading, that only the popes can read it.
Yeah.
So things like that didn't make sense to me even at a young age, and I started questioning a whole lot of it. So there are similarities in that aspect throughout all the religions, whether it's popes, priests, whatever you want to call their higher ordained people. They
Yeah.
always say that there's bits and pieces that are only meant for them to read, and I don't think that that's how it should be in a religion. religion. So
Yeah.
Islam doesn't say that. You know, it's the same book that they read 1400 years ago we're reading today.
Yeah. And you've traveled to many Muslim countries and been well received.
Yes, alhamdulillah, I have. I'm 6 or 7 now.
Wow. It's definitely like a brotherhood feeling, right?
It is, you know.
Just saying Assalamu alaikum and certain mannerisms of just greeting and welcoming, as you saw today in Manila's mosque.
Absolutely, you know, in all the countries I've gone to and all the mosques that I've prayed in, there's people from all over the world and different nationalities and backgrounds. And when we pray Salah, it doesn't matter where you're from.
No.
It's all the same. We're all just practicing and praising one true higher power. But
Yeah.
you don't really experience that in other religions, you know. There's still that tension and hatred to some degree, whether you're black, white, Mexican, brown, whatever your ethnicity is, but not in Islam.
Is this one thing, a huge thing that you can say it's given you, whether it's peace or happiness or certain things that really has put an impact on your life out of Islam, that one thing that you can say has changed your life in terms of how you conduct yourself or operate, or happiness or inner peace or certain things like that?
Honestly, just the inner peace aspect of it. You know, when I first read the Quran for the first time, and how it talked about the trials and tribulations that the Prophet Muhammad went through.
Yeah.
And that's so humbling to read. I mean, he lost everything and went through so many struggles and never said foul words, never didn't smile, and never didn't give a helping hand. So for someone that personally had a lot of hatred and anger inside of him, that was very humbling to read that. And that's what I try to still live by, you know, no matter what you go through in life, it's part of the journey. And so everything that happens is already preordained. And so we're supposed to give thanks for that, you know?
Yeah.
It's not happening for no reason. It's happening because it's supposed to happen.
Did you ever feel vulnerable to any suicidal thoughts?
Yes, I have in my life, and I've actually tried to attempt it a couple of times when I was younger.
This was in the Marines or after?
No, a couple times when I was a teenager before I joined, and then once when I got out of the military. I hit a really low point.
Yeah.
I was very lost, and I tried, but thank God it didn't work. So.
Are you aware of the Palestine, or you must be aware of what's going on in Palestine right now? Yeah.
Yes.
Does it affect you in a way of just seeing people suffering?
I don't, because I think the biggest problem the world has is to classify people, whether it's countries, religion, or whatever.
Yeah.
We're all brothers and sisters in this world, and of course it breaks my heart to see what's going on in Palestine. I mean, there's absolutely no reason for it. But do I feel any hatred or animosity toward them? No.
No.
I wish it would stop, and I pray that it stops. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah.
Because no one deserves to suffer like that. It's absolutely awful.
Do you find, like, so when you came to Islam, what was the hardest challenge did you find coming into Islam? Was it the praying? Was it just understanding?
Honestly, it was giving up the pork. Because,
oh, really?
Yes, because prior to that, I was a huge fan of Whataburger.
Yeah.
So,
oh, Texas. That's a big Texas thing. Oh, down south.
I'm from Texas, so Whataburger is everywhere. So that was honestly the hardest part for me.
I remember meeting a girl from Texas, and we became friends, and she didn't even understand nothing, because she, you know, being born down south, she probably never seen a Muslim before. And then when we started hanging out, she just automatically just stopped eating pork because of how bad it is. Not even for religious reasons, but
SubhanAllah. What a blessing. That's amazing.
But down south or in Texas especially, those type of things are just, it's just so ordinary, you know?
Yes, especially in Texas.
Oh, so how you found Ramadan?
The first one was very challenging. I'm not gonna lie, very challenging. But it's gotten a little bit easier through the years. But each year I try to find a little way to make it harder on myself to keep the struggle there. I think if you go through a Ramadan and say it's easy, you're probably doing it wrong. So
Yeah, no, you're right. It's just it's a mental thing more of a physical thing.
It is. It is.
Your brain, if you can just adapt to know what the real purpose is, then the whole days would go smoother. Um, and then Eid and celebrations like that.
Oh, they're so beautiful.
Yeah.
I remember my first Eid, I was in Morocco. And so it was very interesting to see. You know, the whole town shuts down.
Yeah.
And people are cooking the sheep out on the streets. They're making their barbecue pits right by the side of the road.
Yeah.
And just handing it out to the homeless people and sharing everything. So it was very, very humbling experience for my first one. And
Wow. And being introduced to a whole new array of foods.
yes.
Because there's that kind of cuisines that you find in the Middle East, and so is there something that you really like to eat?
Hummus. I love hummus.
Yeah,
And
it's awesome.
that's probably my favorite one. Kebabs. I love
man.
kebabs with hummus. And the
Kebabs.
Arabic rice is amazing. So
Is there another country that you would like to visit? A certain country? Have you been back to Afghanistan since?
no, not since the war.
Would you
ended.
go back just for?
I would, honestly, yeah. But I don't think it would be a smart idea right now.
Not right
But-
now, no.
No. But I would love, inshallah, if it ever finds peace,
Yeah.
I would go back there in a heartbeat. So I think it's a beautiful country.
Yeah.
Some of the most beautiful mountain regions I've ever seen is in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I always wanted to go to Iraq, but it's similar reasons. I think America has just destroyed these countries. I don't want to go and see American bases everywhere. I want to see the real. That's the
That's the
problem.
hard part. Is,
Yeah.
I'm not anti-Western by any means.
No,
But
no.
if I go to a Middle Eastern country, I don't want to see very many people like myself. And
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. There's a lot of them now. I've been to Erbil, Iraq, and there was a lot of Americans. Of course, due to the base there, but still, you don't get the same feeling.
No.
And you can definitely feel the influence that the West has had on the Middle East.
Yeah. And you've been boxing for how long?
So I started boxing when I was a teenager. My dad was actually a Golden Gloves fighter.
Wow.
So he trained me when I was younger. And then when I joined the military, of course, we trained martial arts in there. And so I started doing MMA. And then when I was in Afghanistan the second time, I met a guy that had the boxing gym in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And so he trained me a little bit there. And yeah, I just went with it from there. So
It seems like in your life you've always liked to challenge yourself.
I would say so.
By joining certain things or doing certain things that give you great discipline and stuff like these sports are real contact sports, and then you got the Marines as well, and it's very interesting. So you're in Manila right now you're on a quest, right? A search to find Manny Pacquiao's
Yes.
trainer.
Yes,
How's
I
that
want-
going?
Well, I just got here,
Oh.
so I haven't been able to meet the right people yet. But
Yeah.
I did meet a brother at the gym that
Yeah.
says he has a friend that's pretty close to Manny Pacquiao.
Wow.
So inshallah,
Inshallah.
I might be able to.
And so this is your career path right now, boxing.
Yes, this is what I want to do. This is
Wow.
right now. I'm just an amateur, and I'm spending my time here in Manila to get ready for the Golden Gloves tournament in America. So
Yeah.
hopefully, inshallah, by 2026, I'll be fighting in the Golden Gloves.
So as a young kid, did your dad influence you into boxing, or did you just see him in a way where you thought?
He did. He would tell me stories about growing up because he grew up Irish Catholic. So
Oh.
boxing is huge. And,
Yeah.
he grew up in the 50s and 60s.
Wow.
So everyone boxed back then. So
Yeah.
he told me about when he fought in the Golden Gloves tournament. And it was just pretty inspiring. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, we don't have a close relationship now.
Yeah.
But just about my whole life's been shaped by his paths. He boxer, so I want to box. He was a Marine, so I joined the Marines. He world traveled when he was around my age, so here I am world traveling.
Wow. You're following his path subconsciously in a way.
Yes, he's had a tremendous influence on my life, and I'm just blessed that I had a father that could share those experiences with me.
When you came to Islam, was it hard for you to explain to your family, or how was it received from your family?
Mixed. It was very mixed. I'd say half of them were understanding, but didn't quite get the reason why I did. And then the other half, not so much. Because I come from a big military family, and I wasn't the only one that served in the Middle East. So the other ones that were in the Middle East, they weren't very receptive of the idea. But
would they say anything to you, like derogatory, or just show it by
honestly,
just distancing themselves from you?
Rob DePhilly, we haven't talked in quite a long time. So I honestly don't know how they feel about it now.
I think people don't understand that Islam brings people together rather than drifts them apart, regardless of faiths and stuff like that. Your characteristics, your behavior, if you're following it correctly. There's a lot of people that don't follow faiths correctly, and they just say they are a faith, but their actions speak differently.
Well, like we hit on earlier about the brainwashing that we spoke about, especially in the Western world, Islam has been perceived in one narrative, and they don't realize that that's not the religion at all. That's a very, very small percentage of people that follow our religion that have gone radical and are spreading a bad image. But for the other 95% of the Muslim community, you're absolutely right. We're a peaceful people that are just here trying to enjoy our journey and find our inner peace.
I've been to some talks myself, and I've heard some quite radical things being said. But these people, I don't consider them to be following the same faith. So I felt really uncomfortable. They misinterpret the words of the Quran and make it to their liking, and this is the problem. These books are powerful, whether it be the Bible, the Quran, and they have an impact on globally the whole world. Similar to what you said, that's what's always connected me, is that the book's always been the same for all these years. It's not been edited or changed around. So that's what keeps the strength of the faith with the believers, I believe.
I agree.
Because going back to the source that much years ago, and still it having a relatively strong impact on today's issues and life,
It does. I think if I could share anything with whoever sees this, is to actually really take the time to understand what you're reading, because like you said, there's some very powerful verses in there, and if you read it with hatred or ill content in your heart, you're going to do a lot more damage than the world needs. So I just strongly stress that people receive it with an open heart and an open mind, and to remember that it's not our place to judge anyone else in the world. There's only one person that has that right, and that's Allah. So
you're right. MashaAllah. Thank you, Brother Hamza, for your time.
Thank you, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
It was a pleasure.
You too, brother.
Town. It's very interesting.
You was working in Israel as a soldier?
As a contractor. I was working for the government on the private sector. So.
And you got to see a total culture shock.
Yeah, it was very much of a culture shock, because I wasn't used to saying, like you said, soldiers are everywhere. And,
tense,
I was a Muslim
right?
at the time, but you can definitely feel the tensions when they were walking through the Muslim towns and cities. And just almost view them as less than human. And so it's very saddening.
I saw that happening to the women and the children. The female Israeli guards were very vulgar to them. When I was crossing the border, going into Jerusalem, it's heartbreaking to see it just as a human, but it's just one of those things that these parts of the world, they just get away with it, And you got United Nations and people like this that are meant to be, you know, the mediators or whatever, but makes you wonder, what do they really do or care about?
Yeah. Unfortunately, there is that big question. If you're there to help, it seems like you're only helping one side. You're supposed to be there to help all sides. So.
To go on a conspiracy note, do you think 9/11 was an inside job? It's a big one. It's been going on for years.
I'll just say this. I think it's quite awkward how the towers fell. I think that's pretty awkward.
Because jet fuel can't melt. Can it?
And most things don't fall straight down.
Like that, yeah. It just seemed too controlled.
It does. And if anyone's ever seen a building get demolition, it kind of eerily looks familiar to what happened on 9/11. So
yeah,
I think there's a lot of things that we don't know. What truly happened. Only the government knows that. But I'll say this: a lot of people went from millionaires to billionaires in the last 21 years due to the war. So
there was a study that showed more people converted to Islam after 9/11 as well in America. A lot of people.
Yeah, after I think the initial 4 to 5 years of us being in the war, yeah, it did. That first 3, 4, 5 years was pretty rough because a lot of people still hated the Middle East, but unfortunately it kind of died out of the media and people forgot about it, and the narrative's twisted. And you're right, a lot of people have converted in the last 15, 16 years, so I guess some good came out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.